It was the third day of our road trip when we pulled into Sedona, and the dust was the first thing I noticed. Not the famous red rocks everyone posts about, but the fine rust-colored powder that coated everything. It had seeped into the rental car's air vents, leaving a faint metallic taste on my tongue. Maya was asleep in the passenger seat, her head tilted back against the window, her lips slightly parted. The late afternoon sun caught the gloss on her lower lip, and for a moment, I forgot about the dust and the weird hollow feeling this place gave me that I was just a guy, watching his girlfriend sleep. We'd been driving for hours, escaping the Phoenix heat, heading towards Flagstaff. Sedona was a pit stop, a place to stretch our legs and see the sights. But the moment we descended into the valley, a quiet settled over us. It wasn't a peaceful quiet. It was the kind of quiet that feels like a held breath. Maya stirred, stretching her arms above her head. The movement pulled her white tank top tight across her chest, and I watched the fabric strain, the outline of her bra clear for a second before she relaxed. "Are we there?" she mumbled, her voice thick with sleep. "Just about. Need to find a place to clean this thing off," I said, tapping the dashboard. A small cloud of red dust puffed into the sunbeam cutting through the windshield. "It's everywhere." She wrinkled her nose, a cute gesture that usually made me smile. "It smells like pennies." We found the car wash on the outskirts of town, just off the 89A. It was one of those automated drive-through places, standing alone in a large, cracked asphalt lot. The building was a long, low-slung structure of faded blue corrugated metal, with a flickering neon sign that simply read, "Wash." The O was dark. The place looked like it had been baked by the sun for decades. There were no other cars around. The only sound was the dry, hot wind whistling through the gaps in the metal walls. "Looks sketchy," Maya said, peering through the windshield. She unbuckled her seatbelt and twisted to grab her bag from the back seat. The motion made her jeans tighten around her hips, and I found myself staring at the curve of her lower back, the way the denim disappeared beneath the hem of her tank top. My mouth felt dry. It was the dust, I told myself. "It's just a car wash," I said, more to convince myself than her. "In and out. We'll have a clean car for the drive to Flagstaff." I pulled up to the payment kiosk. It was an old yellowed plastic box with a slot for credit cards. The screen was scratched and covered in a fine layer of the same red dust. I fumbled with my wallet, my fingers leaving streaks on the grimy surface. As I inserted my card, a man stepped out from the shadowed interior of the office bay. He was tall and gaunt, dressed in faded blue coveralls that were too big for him. His skin had a pale, almost grayish tone, a stark contrast to the sun-beaten locals I'd seen. He didn't say anything, just stood there, watching me with flat, dark eyes. There was no curiosity in his gaze, no greeting. It was the look you'd give a rock. My card was accepted with a dull beep. The machine spat out a ticket, and the large door to the wash tunnel began to rattle upwards. "Proceed," the man said. His voice was as dry and raspy as the wind over gravel. He didn't move, just kept watching us. "Creepy," Maya whispered, sinking a little lower in her seat. I forced a laugh, but it came out strained. "He's just doing his job." I put the car in drive and rolled slowly into the dark tunnel. The inside was a different world. The roar of the machinery was deafening after the desert quiet. Massive, cloth-covered rollers descended from the ceiling and rose from the floor, engulfing the car in a violent, shuddering embrace. Thick, soapy water cascaded over the windshield, obscuring the world outside. The car rocked on its suspension. Maya reached over and put her hand on my thigh, her fingers digging in slightly. "I don't like this," she said, her voice barely audible over the noise. I covered her hand with mine. Her skin was warm. My eyes drifted from the chaotic blur outside to her legs. She was wearing sandals, and I could see her bare feet pressed against the floor mat. Her toenails were painted a deep burgundy. The strap of her sandal was biting into the delicate skin of her ankle, and I had a sudden vivid image of tracing that line with my finger. It was a stupid, inappropriate thought to have while trapped in a shuddering metal box, but it was there, sharp and distracting. Then the soap cycle ended and the rinse began, and that's when I saw it. The water spraying from the nozzles wasn't clear. It was tinged a faint, rusty red. At first, I thought it was just the Sedona dust being washed away, mixing with the water. But as the powerful jets hit the car, I realized the color was coming from the water itself. That it was a fine, powdery red mist, mixing with the water to create a thin, pinkish slurry that ran down the windows. What the hell is that? Maya asked, leaning forward to peer through the red-streaked glass. I don't know. Maybe their water source is contaminated with the local dirt. It seemed logical, but a cold knot was tightening in my stomach. The final cycle began, the spot-free rinse and air dry. But it wasn't just AI or it was a blizzard of that fine red dust. It blew from vents in the walls with a high-pitched whine, coating the car in a dry, swirling cloud. That it was like being inside a miniature desert sandstorm. The dust filled the air, seeping in through the tiny vents around the windows, carrying that same coppery penny-like smell, now intensified. Close your vents. I yelled, fumbling for the climate control buttons, switching it to recirculate. The blowers finally stopped. The tunnel was silent, save for the dripping of red-tinged water from the car's body. We sat there for a moment, stunned. The car, our silver rental SUV, was no longer silver. It was covered in a uniform, perfect, matte finish layer of deep, rusty red. It looked like it had been professionally painted. What the fuck? I breathed. The exit door began to clatter open, revealing the bright Arizona sun. I drove out slowly, the tires crunching on the dust-covered asphalt of the exit lane. I pulled over and we both got out, staring at the sea air. It was flawless. The red dust had buffed the paint to a soft, satiny sheen. There wasn't a single streak or water spot. It was the cleanest, most perfectly finished car I had ever seen, but it was the wrong color, and the dust wasn't just on the surface, it seemed bonded to it, a part of it. Maya reached out a tentative finger and touched the hood. She pulled it back. Her fingertip was clean. It's dry. It's not coming off. I ran my hand over the driver's side door. The surface was smooth as glass. Not a speck of dust transferred to my palm. It was as if the car had always been this color. We stood there in the empty lot, the hot wind tugging at our clothes. The gaunt man in the coveralls was standing by the office door again, just watching. He made no move to approach, offered no explanation. We should go back in there, Maya said, her voice tight. Ask him what that was. What he put on our car. I looked at the man. His expression hadn't changed. It was still that flat, empty stare. The idea of walking up to him, of demanding answers, made my skin crawl. Let's just go, I said. We'll find a different car wash in Flagstaff. A normal one. They can power wash this. Whatever it is. Off. We got back in the car. The interior smelled overwhelmingly of dust and metal. I started the engine and pulled out onto the highway, heading north. I kept checking the rearview mirror, half expecting to see the man watching us leave, but he was gone. The car wash looked small and insignificant in the vast landscape, a forgotten blue box against the towering red rocks. We drove in silence for about 20 minutes. The weird, perfect red finish gleamed in the sun. Other drivers glanced at us, some with appreciation for the unique color, others with a slight frown, as if they sensed something was off. Maya was fidgeting with the hem of her tank top, her knuckles white. I could feel the tension radiating from her. My own mind was racing, trying to find a rational explanation. Bad water supply? A new weird cleaning agent? But it didn't explain the perfection of it, the way the dust had seemingly become the car's new skin. I need to use the bathroom, Maya said suddenly. And I want a coffee, something to get this taste out of my mouth. I nodded, grateful for a distraction. I saw a sign for a roadside diner coming up and pulled into the gravel parking lot. The diner was a classic Route 66 relic, all chrome and neon. We got out, and I couldn't resist running my hand over the car's roof one more time. It was still impossibly smooth, still that unsettling, perfect red. Inside, the diner was cool and dark. We slid into a vinyl booth. A waitress with a name tag that read Brenda came over, pouring coffee without asking. Her eyes flicked to the window, to our conspicuously red car. Nice color, she said, her tone neutral. Thanks, I said, not knowing what else to say. She took our order and left. Maya excused herself to the restroom. I sat there, stirring my coffee, watching the dust motes dance in a sunbeam. The encounter at the car wash replayed in my mind, the silent man, the red mist, the absolute silence after the machinery stopped. It felt less like a memory and more like a dream, a bad one. Maya came back, her face pale. She slid into the booth, not meeting my eyes. "What's wrong?" I asked. She bit her glossed lower lip. "I was washing my hands that I looked in the mirror, and that I thought I saw something in my hair." She reached up and touched a strand near her temple. "It's nothing, that it was just the light." "Let me see." She leaned forward slightly. That I peered at her dark brown hair, and there it was, not much, just a few particles, almost invisible. That a faint reddish dusting right at her hairline, near her part, the same red as the car. Blood went cold. It's just dust, Maya, from the car. It must have gotten on us when we got out." "But we hadn't touched the car when we got out the first time, and when we did later, nothing came off on our hands." I wiped my face with a wet paper towel. She whispered. "It didn't come off. Our food arrived. That we picked at it, the silence between us heavy and thick. That I was acutely aware of her body next to me in the booth, the warmth of her leg near mine. I kept glancing at the delicate line of her jaw, the smooth skin of her neck. The thought of that red dust on her, clinging to her, filled me with a revulsion that was somehow intertwined with a fierce, protective desire. That I wanted to brush it away, to wipe her clean, to put my mouth on that spot and kiss it off. The intensity of the thought shocked me. We paid the bill and left. Back in the car, the smell was still there. That it seemed stronger now, more personal. That as I drove, I kept glancing at Maya. She had her arms crossed over her chest, and I found myself staring at the way her forearm pressed against the side of her breast, pushing it up slightly. The fear was a live wire in the car, and my attraction to her felt like a perverse counterpoint, a sickening reminder of life and body in the face of this creeping, inexplicable wrongness. An hour later, we pulled into the hotel in Flagstaff. It was a nice, modern place, a stark contrast to the ancient weirdness of Sedona. I parked and we got our bags from the back. As I lifted my suitcase, I noticed something. The inside of the door jamb, a part that would have been shielded from the car wash's spray, was still the original silver. The transition to the red was a razor-sharp line. It wasn't a coating. It was a transformation. We checked in and went up to our room. The first thing Maya did was head to the bathroom and turn on the shower. I heard the water running as I put our bags down. I walked over to the window and looked down at the parking lot. Our car stood out like a fresh wound among the whites, blacks, and silvers. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a text from my friend, Marcus. How's the road trip? Send pics. I hesitated, then I lifted my phone and took a picture of the car from the window. I sent it to him. Stopped in Flagstaff. Weird thing happened at a car wash in Sedona. I stared at the photo on my screen before sending it. The red was so vivid, so uniform. I zoomed in. And that's when I saw it. A reflection in the car's window. It was distorted by the satin finish of the dust paint, but it was clear enough. It was a figure, tall and gaunt, standing at the far edge of the parking lot, near the tree line. He was too far away to make out his face, but I knew it was the man from the car wash. My heart hammered against my ribs. I looked up from the phone, scanning the parking lot with my own eyes. There was no one there, just the cars and the trees swaying in the mountain breeze. Marcus replied a minute later. Dude, sick paint job. When did you get that done? My fingers were trembling as I typed. We didn't. The car wash did it, with dust. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then a new message. What are you talking about? The car looks awesome. That's a professional matte wrap. Must have cost a fortune. Before I could reply, the bathroom door opened and Maya stepped out, wrapped in a white towel. Her skin was flushed and damp from the shower. Her dark hair was piled on top of her head, and I could see her hairline clearly now. The red dust was gone. A wave of relief washed over me. Feel better? I asked. A little, she said, but her eyes were still troubled. She walked over to her suitcase, the towel riding up on her thighs as she bent over. I watched the muscles in her calves flex, the water droplets tracing paths down her skin. The fear was still there, a cold stone in my gut, but seeing her like this, clean and vulnerable, stirred something else, something warm and possessive. I wanted to go to her, to pull the towel away and lose myself in the simple physical reality of her. To prove we were still here, still us. I'm going to take a shower. I said, my voice rough. I in the bathroom. The mirror was still steamy from her shower. I wiped it clear and looked at my own reflection. My face looked tired, my eyes shadowed. I leaned in closer, examining my hairline, my eyebrows. Nothing. I was clean. I stripped and got in the shower, letting the hot water pound against my skin. I scrubbed myself hard as if I could wash away the memory of the day. When I got out, I felt marginally better, more grounded. Maya was sitting on the bed, wearing one of my t-shirts and a pair of her own shorts. She had her laptop open. I was trying to look up that car wash, she said without looking up. It doesn't seem to exist. What do you mean? I mean there's no listing for a car wash on the 89A where we were. Not on Google Maps, not on Yelp. Nothing. That's impossible, I said, sitting down next to her. The bed dipped and her leg pressed against mine. I could smell her shampoo, a familiar, clean scent that was a welcome relief from the dust. We were just there. I know. She turned the laptop toward me. The screen showed a satellite view of the stretch of road. I zoomed in on the location. There was the cracked asphalt lot. But the building was gone. It was just an empty lot, overgrown with desert scrub. A cold dread, deeper than anything I'd felt so far, seeped into me. It must be an old image, I said, but my voice lacked conviction. I checked the date on the satellite imagery. It was updated 3 months ago. We sat in silence, the only sound the hum of the hotel's air conditioner. The rational world was cracking, and something else was bleeding through. My phone buzzed again. It was Marcus calling this time. Hey, I answered, putting him on speaker. Dylan, what the hell is going on? Marcus's voice was serious, all traces of his earlier joking gone. What do you mean? The picture you sent. I showed it to Jasmine. She's into all that paranormal stuff, you know? She did a reverse image search on it. And it didn't come back with anything. No matches. So she started messing with the contrast, the levels. Digging into the metadata. Maya and I exchanged a glance. Her eyes were wide. The photo you sent, Marcus continued, his voice dropping. According to the metadata, it wasn't taken today. Of course it was. I just took it from the hotel window. The timestamp in the file's EXIF data says it was taken in 1987. The room seemed to tilt. That's impossible. It's a glitch. Maybe, but there's more. When Jasmine enhanced the reflection in the window. The guy you said you saw? He paused. She cleaned it up. It's not just one person.